Hi everybody, Miscellaneous here and welcome back to my channel. Now today's visit has been to the old operating theatre museum and it really fits the brief. Would you consider it offbeat? It is near London Bridge after all, but it's up, over 50 steps up, and if you didn't have someone like me telling you it was here, then you wouldn't know about it. It's definitely quirky and interesting and lay sealed up for nearly 100 years. But nowadays you can go and visit it and the Herb Garret next door. Come and take a walk in my shoes and we'll go look in the old operating theatre. It's actually quite small, but during its heyday it would have been crammed full of surgeons, doctors and medical students. In the Herb Garret you can see a mock-up of an apothecary and you can see how pills are made. There are also some surgical instruments here which look very much like instruments of torture. Do give me a like, subscribe to my channel and click on the notifications bell. I will see you in the video. The old operating theatre and Herb Garret are situated in the roof space of St Thomas's Church. There has been a church associated with the hospital on this site since medieval times. The hospital in question is St Thomas's Hospital, one of the oldest hospitals in London. When, in 1862, the hospital moved from its ancient Southwark site to make way for a railway line to Charing Cross, the old operating theatre was sealed up and lay dormant until its rediscovery in 1956. It was restored and opened as a museum in 1962. This operating table came from a different hospital and you have surgical instruments to the side. The old operating theatre was for women and dates from 1822. It was entered directly from Dorcas Ward. The stools and chairs nearest to the operating table were for distinguished visitors. The inscriptions above the door are copied from the men's operating theatre at St Thomas's, but there is no evidence that they were ever placed here. They're just to add ambience to this restored theatre. The 5 rows of the operating theatre would have been packed full of medical people, with some sightseers verbally encouraging those around the operating table to move their heads so that they could see. Sometimes the room had to be partially cleared before the surgeon could operate. You have a washstand and a basket full of blood-stained rags here. This is the oldest surviving operating theatre in England. It was in 1956 that Raymond Russell, an organologist and antiquarian, was researching the history of Old St Thomas's Hospital, and he decided to investigate this attic space, finding the garret in darkness and the shell of the operating theatre intact. The standings were gone, but you could see the outline for them on the floor. After the 1846 introduction of ether as anaesthetic, it's thought that patients were anaesthetised in this area to the side to spare them the alarm of being brought into a theatre full of students. The stairs to the right lead to the top of the old operating theatre. Plenty of surgical instruments are on display to the left. Into the Herb Garret, and this is part of an art installation. These represent cloths used during operations. We are reminded to enjoy the exhibits with our eyes and not our hands. The entrance to the Herb Garret is to the right around the corner. It's up a spiral staircase of 52 steps. I don't believe there is disabled access to the Herb Garret. It is an old building after all, and there are no toilets up here, so go before you get here. It is believed that the use of St Thomas's Church garret for the hospital apothecary to store herbs dates back to its construction. Dried opium poppy heads and hooks, ropes and nail holes were all discovered in the 1970s, offering evidence of its former use. This dangling clotted blood-like sculpture is part of the exhibition, which is a series of artworks by Bookscapes Collective. The exhibition discusses the theme of superstition in historic and modern medical practice. anatomy and dissection, and inside the human body. Also in this area, there is a large glass specimen cabinet containing delights such as pieces of brain and a partial colon and appendix. But we are reminded that these once belonged to living, breathing human beings, and to show respect by not taking photographs. So I didn't allow my camera to linger over that cabinet. Herbs have been used for medicines since ancient times. Indeed, many modern medicines originate from plant sources. This place is very atmospheric and very cluttered too. I nicknamed it Miss Havisham's bridal chamber. Here's a poisons cabinet, including belladonna. Halloween was approaching, so we had a few strategically placed pumpkins and plague masks. The pretty coloured glass bottles here at this barred window certainly add to the atmospherics of this almost secretive, hidden attic. Do check out my blog. I will always be a writer before anything else, and there is much more information on there. Infant care and quantities of herbs would have been purchased from the visiting herb woman. The hospital also had its own botanic garden and apothecary's shop situated within its grounds. The apothecary was the chief resident medical officer of the hospital and responsible for prescriptions for surgical cases. In the absence of the physician, he was also responsible for dispensing medicines to all of the hospital's patients. Little Miss Mucky and Disgusting just had to focus on this. It's about venereal disease mercury treatment. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, and before, syphilis was a real threat, with 1 in 5 patients at the hospital diagnosed with the disease. In this cabinet you have a nurse's chatelaine and a portable bedside font. Let's be honest here, children often died during infancy back then and therefore had to be christened quickly if the chances of them passing soon was a real threat. It's sad, but realistically true. Here is the apothecary, and you can learn about pill making here. Here we have medical instruments pertaining to the midwife, including forceps. This gruesome looking device is a cervical dilator. Yep, this made me wince and cross my legs. This is the domestic medicine chest, showing things you may have had in your home, had you been around in those days. Let me pan round to try and give you a full view of the Herb Garret. A closer look at pill making, and do excuse my hand flapping into focus. Oh well, at least my manicure looks decent. Physicians and diagnosis, and there's a bit about bloodletting and leeches in this section. Halloween bits and bobs, and we have a pumpkin and a plague mask. This attraction shouldn't take up more than an hour of your time, and it's certainly worth a visit. I thoroughly enjoyed my time here, and I will be back. A bit of history for you to read. They do have a tour guide as well, which you can buy. I did. And the entrance and exit is just to the end here. I'm going to finish off with a slow wander through into the antechamber of the old operating theatre though. When the old hospital was moved, many of the buildings were demolished, so we're so lucky to have this little time capsule of history. Some information, and the old operating theatre was starting to get rather peoply, so I called it a day. Thank you for watching, and I do hope you enjoyed the video. I've also been to a couple of other central London museums. One is the Petrie Museum of Egyptology and the other is the Grant Museum of Zoology, and I will leave links to those on the last page. Remember to give me a like, subscribe to my channel and click on the notifications bell. Leave me a comment telling me what you thought. It costs you nothing and you'll be helping me out enormously. Come and see me soon for another miscellaneous adventure. Until next time, ta-ta for now.